What's up guys, Sloth here, and this is the patch notes review for patch 3.17, as I'm told it's pronounced. This patch is gonna be called the Odyssey 2017, and that's exactly what it's about. The new Odyssey that's coming up within the next month, and we already got a tease of the first few skins. As usual, we're gonna go through the cosmetics and stuff relatively quick, and then talk about the balance primarily. So, we got a new skin for Amaterasu, which is this one. We got a new skin for Susano, which is this one, which is another mecha skin with a kind of strange voice pack, but otherwise really freaking cool. So, I really like that one. We've got Old Wa, which is amazing. I freaking love the old design of New Wa, but what's especially cool about this skin is that in her ultimate, she returns to the snake form, and she stays in the snake form until she dies. So you have that snake tail which you waggle around with, slightly like Medusa basically, only that is New Wa, which is Old Wa. So really cool. We got the gold skins for Terra, and along with that we also got the gold skins or mastery skins for New Wa, which look pretty cool in my opinion. And here's a quick glance of the voice packs.
I'm not scared of hounds. They're cute.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Susano.
I'm a master of both blade and circuit.
They could easily tone that down 2 pictures and we'll be fine, but like this is a bit weird in my opinion. Whatever. We've got achievements for Gap, we've got achievements for Habwa, and one of them is actually pretty hard. Izanami, and then we've got the announcement for the Odyssey. Odyssey, starting with those 4 skins, or 3 skins, loading frame, and one of the skins is a collection reward. What's crucial here is that you can progress in the Odyssey without buying skins now by completing quests, which I think is really cool. So you don't need to buy everything, you buy the stuff that you really like and skip the ones that you don't. So that's nice. And that changes the system a little bit. At the same time, we're getting Xingtian's Mountain. Xingtian's Mountain is a PvE thing. I would compare it to a little bit of World of Warcraft instance and a little bit of Darksiders Endless, like 100 rounds, if anyone has played that. Where you fight against a PvE mob or multiple PvE mobs with 5 players. Everyone starts with level 13 and 7,500 gold. So really, really cool from what I've seen so far. The teasers look really nice. So every boss is like something individual. For example, there's a Loki in there. There's an Arachne with like 100 webs, and there's a Bull Demon King with 2 Ras along with it. And you'll have to find the particular team comp that works. The bosses will have relics, for example. Some will be immune against something, stuff like that. So I guess there will be something that counters healing at some point and stuff like that. Really, really cool. The only character that you can't play is Xingtian because you're playing on Xingtian's Mountain. So I really like that. Then we got a fix to Witchblade, which is actually pretty good. Which means that if you have Witchblade and Frostbound Hammer now, the slows stack instead of overriding each other. And that is something that was inspired by a Reddit post, I think, which is somebody who will probably watch this video as well, so shouts to him. And I think this is really good. I think this really brings more to that double slow potential against Hunters. It's going to be rough for Hunters, but hey. So, yeah, that's a change. And there's also a change that's not in here, which is that Ranked gets another adjustment, or rather, Divisions get an adjustment. I think that is really good, because at the moment, as you may or may not know, you have your elo, which is completely separate from the division. You can be a much higher elo than your division, and that's going to put into more of an accordance. So if your elo is higher than what your current division indicates, you're going to have a much easier time climbing up and skipping divisions to get to the division where your elo currently is. And that's gonna be only a positive effect for now. There's not gonna be any downside to it. You're not gonna drop down faster if your elo is lower. For now it's only going up, but it's gonna make sure that people get placed more corresponding to where they should be, and I think that's a really good change. Okay, and with that, we're moving on to items. Ancile, Ancile, whatever you want to call it, gets a buff. The silence radius is buffed from 20 to 30. This is actually really good, because now it's more of a ranged character's range where most abilities will hit you. It is much more impactful in team fights with multiple targets around you. And I know that many people still think that this item is underpowered, but very, very recently, Cubo Fred has picked this up against a 3 magical comp. I know that one of them was Vulcan, one of them was Ares, and one of them was Ymir. So a lot of them were like close range targets, you play to bots, and in those scenarios, Cielo is already really, really good. And I think a lot of people undervalue it. So with this buff, I think it will be very good, and I think we will see a lot more of this item. It's still situational. It's nothing you would always build, but for those purposes, I think it will be really strong. And I think we will see it on a larger variety of characters. Celestial Legion Helmet. For this one, I actually had to pull out the numbers because I have not seen this item in ages. This item gets a buff where the physical protection is increased from 70 to 90, excuse me. And that's actually not too bad, because this item now has 90 physical protection, 60 magical power, and prevents you from... No, excuse me, it has been changed. It gives you magical power after you would have been crit. So I think this is like a solid defense item overall. Obviously, there's still Breastplate of Valor, which helps you in other regards, but against a particularly crit-focused comp, I could see this work. 90 protection is nothing to laugh at. That's a huge amount. I could actually see this on supports as well now, on Guardians, simply because if you're against a heavy crit comp, while you will rarely build it on Guardians, it has a purpose there now. It's not a Guardian item, it's primarily a mage item, but it gets more of a niche for itself with this buff. Just still a niche item similar to Cielo. Then we have Ninja Tabi. Ninja Tabi gets a pretty unexpected buff in my opinion, which is buffing the attack speed from 15% to 20% and giving it 100 extra mana. Now who is this going to buff? It's going to buff hunters, because many hunters already go into attack speed boosts. This gives attack speed boosts even more of a late game DPS boost over Warrior Tabi. It also gives you some more lane potential by giving you extra mana for abilities. So even if your abilities deal less damage, you can use some more. It's also going to buff characters like Kali, who benefit very much from attack speed. So any character that generally makes a lot of use of attack speed, is not too dependent on lane clearing with abilities, can make better use of it now. So a justifiable buff, given that Ninja Tabi was picked up a lot less than Warrior Tabi. So I think this is pretty fair. Reinforced Greaves, on the other hand, it's going a little crazy. Once again, I want to pull up the numbers here because this is good. So, Reinforced Greaves did not have a passive prior to this. And now the passive is, each time you take damage from an enemy guard, you gain a stack of reinforced armor providing +5 physical and magical protection. Stacks up to 5 times. Lasts 6 seconds, refreshing with each stack gained. Okay, so I'm not quite sure how the instances are counted. So far it sounds like a dot will instantly stack this to full. If that's the case, it's going to be brutal. I feel like it's going to be changed, so it's just different damage instances. And then 6 seconds. 6 seconds. You're not going to be in a team fight for 6 seconds without taking damage, I'm pretty sure. You're a frontliner, you're supposed to take damage. And what you get out of this, along with the physical defense, along with the health, and the physical power and the crowd control reduction and the movement speed that's already on this item, is up to 25 protections of each. And if you paid a little bit of attention to what I'm saying when I talk about effective health, you have 150 health and 25 protections at the same time with this if you get the stacks to full. That is a lot of effective health early on. This is going to allow you to soak up so much damage, especially if you get it in combination with something like Mark of the Vanguard. Dots are going to be completely useless against you if they're not like completely focused into penetration against that. So this is going to make Reinforced Greaves really, really strong, and I'm not sure if it needed that buff of that much of an extent. The problem remains that Talaria or Travelers still have that extra gold, which you kind of want. But I feel like Reinforced Greaves is going to be less of a situational pickup. It's going to be a lot more common because aggressive plays are going to be a lot more rewarding with this new Guardian Boots. We'll see if any other roles can actually make use of that. I could imagine something like particular, specific solo laners being able to abuse this in specific matchups. I'm just very specifically speaking about specific here, but especially when you're against a matchup with a lot of singular instances of damage like Guan Yu, this could be better than it sounds, though Guan Yu steals protection at the same time. Runeforged Hammer, radius increased. Cool. Still very situational. Not the same impact as Cielo in my opinion, because It's just an awkward item. It's just really, that's what it is. I'm not gonna say more about it. We'll see a bit of it, but it's still gonna be an awkward item. Shoes of Focus getting a buff. Increased power from 30 to 40. Okay, why? I see that Shoes of Focus is not getting picked up enough, but this is gonna buff the wrong gods. This is gonna buff Janos, because that guy totally needed a buff, Kappa. This is making it more likely for this item to potentially be picked up on gods like Ragin, which I don't really want to see. More cooldown reduction on Ragin is nothing I want to see. This is gonna make it get picked up more by Nuwa, who will get a buff this patch. And you will see about that. So, also not too happy about that one. So, yeah, I don't really know. I already know why this needed some extra power. But, fair enough. So be it. Talaria Boots gets a price nerf from 1,500 to 1,400 gold. And also gets a physical power increase from 10 to 15. So you can basically pick this up at the start of the game with potions now, but I doubt you will because there's Watcher's Gift. Somebody do the math on that, please. But it's gonna be a little more interesting. But, you know, it's just a slight change. And then we're moving on to the god changes. Bastet. Bastet is getting a buff / nerf. Primarily a buff. So her base mana is increased from 215 to 230. Her MP5 is increased from 0.18 to 0.25. So a lot more mana for Bastet. At the same time, Pounce has decreased mana cost from up to 90 to up to 80, starting with 10 less already. So 10 across the board. And Razor Whip gets a damage increase of 5 per rank, while getting a scaling reaction from 25 to 20. So, damage increase is pretty decent. Keep in mind that it's a dot. I think this makes it the ability you should probably level first on level 1. I need to check back on that, but I'm pretty sure it does, DPS-wise. And it kind of gives her a lot more early aggression potential in that regard. Scaling nerf will make it a little bit weaker late game, but it's good overall. And Bastet is not bad. Bastet is not in the meta. Bastet is a split push god primarily, but with Bastet having more kill potential early, we could see a little more of her, and I think that was a very justifiable buff, excuse me. Izanami. Izanami fades away a little longer. Stealth increased by 1 second. Still the same wind-up as far as I can tell, so. Stealth is not the most crucial part of this. And Dark Portal gets a damage increase by same on rank 1, but then going up to 650 instead of 610. A lot more burst from the ultimate there. For the extra damage, it's nothing to be undervalued. And the scaling also increased by 10%. So Dark Portal is hitting harder. You want to avoid that ability now. You wanted to before, but you want to do it even more. Izanami was underperforming, so I wouldn't rate the pitchforks here. She's just too awkward and hard to get used to and play, I think, so far for her to really be played a lot. And even though her numbers are good and the clear is good, she's just a lot harder to play effectively, and I could imagine that she'll actually get some more buffs later. Nemesis getting a nerf. More than justified, most overperforming god, along with Fafnir, which brings us to the question where the fuck is a Fafnir nerf, but hey, at least Nemesis gets a nerf, and that's her old cooldown going up to 90 at the first rank and then down to 70, so what she has now. Late game, the problem for that is Nemesis late game has always been strong. Nemesis late game is still strong. Nemesis early is not weak, you just need to be a little more wary when to use your ultimate. Like, okay, yeah, I see the point, but that's not how you put her in place, and I think she's still going to be top ban material because the ult just functions too well. The ult is just too strong. What she needs is a nerf of the value of the ult and finally get that 2 buff, which they all refuse to do. Give some damage to Slice and Dice instead, make it a more useful ability overall, and then nerf the ult. So she's more flexible in which abilities she should focus on. As long as that's not happening, we're getting cooldown increases, which will actually not do much to her, but are still a justified nerf, a good nerf. Nox now has a new taunt animation, meaning there is no more Milk Monster. Ta-da! She's got like a silence move now, something like that. Nuwa actually gets a buff, and it's not that insignificant. Clay Soldiers updated Clay Soldiers AI to better attack intended targets. Minions will always prioritize enemy gods that are damaging Nua. That's the point here. If there are no gods attacking Nua, the minions then will target the closest enemy until a god damages an ally or Nua. Protection threat reduced from up to 25 to up to 20. So not much there, but that's gonna be huge. If you are trying to fight a Nua now, the minions will come for you and it will guarantee the stun as long as the minions are up. Because they're gonna chase you. They're no longer gonna be dumb and attack the minions and blah blah blah. They're gonna go for you. They're gonna go for you every single time. As long as you're trying to attack her. And as long as the minions are not far away, they will get to you. And that's gonna be really frustrating to deal with. And especially when you got like the new cooldown boots and all that stuff along with that. Because she's got the shred anyways, right? This is gonna be nasty. This is gonna be really, really nasty. Just saying that now, you've been warned. You will see a lot more of Nua, who was not completely bad beforehand and will really perform well now. And you're going to see those nasty ultimates from the sky all the time. Poseidon. Poseidon gets a Tide buff, meaning he gets extra movement speed, 5%. So if you have the full stack, you now have 15%. I didn't actually know, honestly, that Tide had movement speed on top of everything. I thought it was only in 2. But that's cool. That's decent. He's got some extra mobility that he needs because he doesn't have the reliable escapes that others do. And then there's Trident. Reduce the pre-fire on this ability so players can immediately fire a basic attack without waiting for the Trident's animation to finish. This one is actually interesting because I feel like you could actually attack cancel with that. I'm not sure if it's going to work like that, but if you do, you just attack and throw that Trident right away. You're just going to attack cancel. And Poseidon's basic attacks hit hard. Don't undervalue his basic attacks. He's got late game. He's got that stuff going for him. He's not a Freya, but he's scary. And that brings us to Ravan. Ravan gets one of the most justified nerfs I've ever seen. Ravan was the top performing solo laner, if you didn't know. Top pick, top band most of the time. Like along with Erlang Shen being up there. He gets a slight nerf. Not too much. This is how I like to see top but not completely freaking overperforming gods be nerfed. Like Nemesis should get more nerfs because she's freaking overperforming like hell. But Ravan was a little too strong for the solo lane. He gets an extra cooldown second on Prana Onslaught, and he gets a healing reduction of 5 per target, so it's significant on the 10-hand Shadow Fist. So that's a good nerf. I think that's gonna put him more in line with the other solos without breaking him, and we'll see how he performs after that. Blah blah blah. Terra, last one in the row. Terra's standing stones will now show a cracked texture when they are about to fade. This is good not only for Terra, because now she knows, okay, my stones are about to break, so let me dash through them or whatever, let me use that ability. But also the enemies knowing, okay, she might use an ability very soon because they're about to run out. So I think this is good for both sides. More visual cues make the game flow more comprehensive, more, you know, you look at things and you see what's happening. I think this is always a good change. And that brings us to the end of the patch notes. Once again, I feel like there are some gods that should be addressed that haven't been addressed, like especially Fafnir, still up there and not seeing any nerfs, but some good nerfs there. I'm kind of missing some buffs on some characters, but I like that, for example, Poseidon was buffed. I like that Bastet was buffed. So it's not like we are in a bad spot. I am very hyped for the new game mode. I am very hyped for the rank changes. I am very hyped for the Odyssey, and I'm going to see how this works out with the questing and all that stuff. And that will conclude this video. I will probably not be able to do the next patch notes. We'll see about that. I'll do them a little bit delayed. I'll let you know beforehand. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. New video tomorrow. Duke Sloth out.